Welcome to Network Spotlight with Mikhail. On today's interview, Mikhail sits down with Archisman to discuss the main challenges with DeFi, cybersecurity, and how Brew Money is taking both into consideration when building out their DeFi wallet. Hit the like button, don't forget to comment and subscribe, and make sure to follow on all social media platforms. Hope you guys enjoy the show.
Hey Archie, how are you?
Good.
How was your day?
It was good. The team is working hard towards shipping some really exciting stuff. So let's see.
Great, yeah. Well, before we jump into what you're working on in terms of Brew Money, give us a little background about who you are and how you got to be in the space.
Sure. Okay, so are we recording formally? So we're getting started now?
Yeah. We're gonna just go ahead and have a good conversation.
Awesome. So cool. I'll just give a bit of background about myself and set the context right. So my name is Archisman. Like most people call me Archie, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Brew Money. I primarily come from a product background. I've spent most of my career as a product person at early to mid-stage startups. So before Brew, I used to head a product for a logistics startup in India called Shadowfax that does close to 1 million deliveries almost every day for all the leading e-commerce players. My journey with crypto started somewhere back in 2016, essentially. And for the longest time, I would say I was more like a passive observer looking from the sidelines, what were the different things happening. And then I think for most I think this is something that happened to a lot of people. Like COVID happened, and that gave us some time to reflect back, step back, and see okay, what do I want to do next in my career and life? And that is when in a very serendipitous way, I discovered decentralized finance. And both Mehul, who is my co-founder and CTO, and I, both of us have a keen interest in fintech. And we thought, okay, once we discovered DeFi, we thought, okay, this probably deserves a deeper look. And we started going really deep into it and trying to figure out what are the different things happening. And for me, that one aha moment was getting into that Aave, and just for the fun sake, I took out a loan out of it. I had some crypto assets, put them as collateral. And once you figured that out, it was so seamless that we got convinced that, okay, this is where the future is headed. We see a lot of innovations that has happened over the last few years in the finance and banking sector, but you cannot still call it technology centric. Whereas DeFi is a completely new infrastructure, which is changing how you can avail these different financial services. So, and that's when when we started going down that rabbit hole, we got convinced that, okay, this is where we want to spend the next probably 5 to 10 years of our life. And we got started with Brew Money. So, yeah.
It's amazing how the pandemic really sped up the process of digitalization. It really did a number on everybody. Obviously, everybody started taking Zoom calls a lot more often, and working from home was a lot more customary, but also on the crypto side, it definitely did a number on, had a huge impact on that as well.
Yeah, this is a bit surprising, but I also think that this brought the world a lot closer. I could contrast myself 2 years back and 2 years now. I have so many people I've met online across the world. I don't think that had happened before pandemic. So yeah.
Do you also do networking conferences? Do you travel to any of these events?
Okay, to be very honest, I haven't done a lot of conferencing recently. I do have, so I'm part of the On Deck Fellowship, which was a great opportunity and platform to network with a lot of fellow founders. But I think most of my networking has happened online. Be it conferences or communities. So.
Yeah, and to your point, as you mentioned, we're so much closer together now that you can really do a lot of the networking from your own home. So it really is a big change now. So, okay, let's stick to this Aave story. So how did you go from dabbling in Aave to coming out with Brew Money?
Sure. So we discovered Aave. I saw that experience, which was like an aha moment. And then Mehul and I started exploring the whole DeFi, I would say the whole DeFi ecosystem and everything, right? And and as we started spending a lot of time, we realized that, okay, broadly from a technology standpoint, this is amazing. This is definitely the infrastructure on top of which the next generation of financial services will be delivered. But there were broadly three challenges that we felt existed in the ecosystem. First was essentially the whole complexity. So I'm fairly technical. My co-founder is a hardcore techie, and I realized that even for me to figure out the first few steps took a bit of time. Like, you have to go to an exchange, get some tokens, move it to a wallet. You should have a clear idea how to manage your wallet, then go move it across chains and participate. I mean, all of these are fairly technical elements, and something that you would not expect probably a regular internet user to figure out on their own. The second challenge we saw was, I would say, the cost aspect. Like 70% of DeFi exists on Ethereum. And I remember making the first $50 or odd deposit and probably spending equal amount of money on like the gas fees, right? And so that was another thing. And the third element was, of course, the whole safety aspect. Like, I think right now we are close to 700 or 800 DeFi protocols that has been published. They're live, and a lot more coming in together, right? And you keep on hearing these stories around rug pulls, hacks, and all those things happening. So we thought that, okay, at some level, like if we have to make DeFi mainstream, we need to solve for these three elements, which means a simpler experience, a more economical access, and probably some elements of safety around it, right? And as we started going into the ecosystem, we felt that a lot of this, I would say, fundamental infrastructure pieces which are needed to make this happen have already come together. Like for instance, simplicity was something that we could figure out, like how we can build it on a mobile app while maintaining self-custody. The cost element, you have a lot of these L2 solutions coming up. Like, okay, we started with Polygon, but now you have Optimism, Arbitrum, ZK Sync is coming up. There are a lot of alt L1 chains that have also come up, which makes gas fees much lower, right? And finally, even from a safety aspects, like we've made some advances. Like, you have platforms like DeFi Safety, which ranks different kind of like at least does the process scoring of all the different DeFi protocols. Organizations like Certic and all are already doing some independent audits. And so there are ways, if some way you can bring all of these things together, you can probably solve 80% of the, it's still not perfect, but at least it's a starting point to build a product that can act as a gateway for people to start using DeFi, right? So that was the genesis of starting with Brew Money. And I would say still early days, but I would say, there's a lot of innovation happening at the infra level, and we are trying to pick them up and move them into the wallet or the consumer layer level. So yeah.
And your wallet, people have they keep their own keys essentially, right?
Yes. So it's a self-custody wallet. So so essentially, okay, we are also thinking about ways in how we can make that seed phrase management also simpler and more secure. But we don't have a definitive solution, but yes, like from a tech standpoint, it's a self-custody wallet. It doesn't feel like a self-custody wallet because we have built the application with a user experience which is probably more similar to your typical Web2 platforms like Venmo or Google Pay, but with in-wallet protocol integrations. But like the user is always in control of their assets, so it's not like there is a centralization layer involved or anything.
So when you think about the different wallets out there that are more mainstream, right? You think about Trust Wallet, MetaMask, perhaps maybe Phantom Wallet for the Solana ecosystem. What would you say are some of the features that are different about Brew Money?
Okay, so this is the reason, like sometimes I feel a bit weird using the word wallet to discover Brew Money, but I think the way to look at it is like the existing set of wallets in the ecosystem, right? They're extremely powerful, but the way they're designed is, I would say, one, they're not necessarily mobile native from a DeFi perspective. Like, okay, you can take your Trust Wallet or you can take your Coinbase wallet on a mobile phone and connect it on a desktop dApp like on Aave or Uniswap and run some use cases, but it's not that easy to do it on mobile directly for a lot of them. And the second element is, if you look at the user experience of the current set of wallets, right? So the way they're designed is they're supposed to be, they're designed in a way that which is more token centric, which is like, okay, I'm collecting a set of tokens on my wallet, and then I'm figuring out different use cases. Whereas in Brew Money, what we're doing is we're reversing the workflow or thought flow. Like user has certain use case in mind. Like, okay, maybe I want to swap some tokens, or maybe I want to make my first deposit with a stable coin on Aave, or maybe I want to get into staking on a Stater Labs or Lido Finance or something like that. So the idea is that, okay, if I have to explain the experience, or maybe the first protocol integration experience, the way it happens is that you launch the app, you select the protocol, let's say Aave, where you say that, okay, I want to make some deposit of USDC pool on Aave. And then you choose that, okay, I can move funds directly from my bank account. So which is like you use Apple Pay and click a button and you make your deposit directly on Aave protocol. Or if you already have access to some stable coins, we give you we're building a simpler workflow that you can move funds from your exchange or from any other wallet into this. And the whole end-to-end workflow happens with one tap. So I would say that Brew Money is probably not as feature-rich as the existing set of wallets, but at the same time, for the niche set of use cases that we're building within the app itself, it's way simpler. Things that will take you like 5-6 clicks, and a lot of, I would say, figuring out to do for a new user can be done with a single tap on Brew Money.
There's definitely a talent that you need to possess in order to simplify things, and sometimes having too many features really overcomplicates things. So there's a difficult aspect, a very challenging aspect to trying to make things as simple as possible for the users. So speaking of users, how has that journey been for you from the moment when you started? You know, where are you now? Like, how are you pacing?
Sure. So right now we are at a fairly early stage. I mean, we started doing running some closed beta tests over the last few months. We should be going live on App Store hopefully in the near future. We are almost there. And so we have a waitlist of about 2,500 odd users. We had been running a beta test with a couple of hundred users over the last few months. And if I have to explain the kind of users we have, like these are, I mean, okay, I won't call them like power users, but these are people who had been in the crypto ecosystem for a while. Like these are people who have owned, I mean, we have people who have owned cryptocurrencies for at least more than 4 years also. But, and they are believers in the ecosystem, they are believers in decentralization. The challenge is that, okay, while a lot of them are aware of this whole ecosystem, they still find it fairly complex. And this is the value proposition that has resonated with them, which is like, okay, Brew is giving us an opportunity to maybe grow our existing crypto tokens and assets, but do it with self-custody. Like I think a quote that one of our users shared, which I absolutely love, is like earning with self-custody. And broadly, that is the kind of users we are targeting, like people who have already made that leap of faith into crypto. And now we are trying to make DeFi more accessible for them.
So what's it like to work with Apple? Because you said that you're currently in the process of launching your mobile application, which, you know, that would be huge. Do they make it easy for you? Do they try to throw a bunch of wrenches at you, or what's that experience like?
I mean, fortunately, so this was one of the reasons, like while we actually started our App Store publishing process or the review process earlier than we were ready, in the sense that because it was a big unknown for us. I've heard a lot of horror stories, but for us, fortunately, it worked out really well. I think we had one hiccup, which was a miss on our end, but like the whole process of submitting the app for review till getting it reviewed took us roughly 2 weeks, which is not as fast as we would like, but still we were able to close it. So again, but I would say it's too early for us. We'll see as we go live. On the test flight, we didn't face any problems, to be honest. I mean, there were a lot of things we had to do, but we didn't face much problems in getting the app on test flight. So let's see.
So what's the rest of your roadmap? What does that look like?
Right. So, I mean, we have one protocol already integrated, which is Aave, and it's a stablecoin pool. We are planning to introduce more protocols available on Polygon chain to start with. One of the major ones is essentially enabling Matic staking through Stater Labs. So users can come in and either move Matic or buy Matic and stake them in like a single flow and like grow them at like, I think currently the kind of yield you can get is like 5.5% on your Matic staking. Plus, if they want, you can boost it by providing liquidity into a liquidity pool and get like up to 15% APR on them. So that's one thing that we are doing. If the idea is the next few set of things that we are planning to do is like, okay, we are trying to figure out a solution for like how we can make the wallet management or the seed phrase management simpler and more secure. Like we are absolutely huge fans of what Argent has done, and now a lot of other wallets are doing, which is around social recovery. So we are trying to figure out that is there a way we can build something similar for our set of users, because let's face it, like seed phrase management is not the simplest thing out there. And the third bit is like eventually expand to other protocols in other layer 2 chains like Optimism, Arbitrum, and hopefully like in next few months we'll start seeing ZK Sync chains also coming up. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to pivot the conversation and let's talk about some of the current events that are happening. Obviously, within the last 24 hours, we've seen, Binance Smart Chain go down, and the bridge has been hacked. Like, what do you make, or what do you know about this particular exploit? Do you have any? Have you read up on it at all?
I did read up on it. I mean, I know like what happened was. Okay, so this is my basic understanding that, okay, people were able to register themselves as validator and siphon off funds from the Binance chain up to some extent, if I'm getting it right, up to some extent. And Binance chain is not necessarily the most decentralized chain. So it's like they could take over the control and move funds to other places. And I understand like some of the stablecoin pools, tokens had been frozen by Tether and all. But having said that, like, okay, there is a good part and a bad part. You can look at it, right? The good thing, okay, the bad thing is that, okay, imagine Binance Chain, which is probably the second largest DeFi ecosystem from what I recall, right? Like after Ethereum, and having that kind of chain getting hacked clearly shows that, okay, that these are still very early days. I mean, there is a lot of risk involved. And I think as builders in the space, we should definitely be focusing on security, but we should also be focusing on educating users as new users come into the platform, making them aware about like what kind of risk they are taking, right? And now the good thing is like the community came together really fast and acted upon it, right? Like, which gives us that confidence that, okay, I mean, we are able to build this ecosystem which can come together and work together without having a centralized entity to coordinate between them, right? Like CZ famously tweeted, right? Like, because he was sleeping all the time and the community took over and figured out the things. So I think that's an encouraging thing for us. Like probably what we are building, like all these things contribute towards making something that is more resilient for the future.
Yeah, and when I first read about the exploit, what was interesting about this particular exploit was that the hacker minted new tokens, is my understanding, and then stole them, which was a very, very different exploit. But going back to my point about the bridges, bridges still tend to be a big vulnerability in the DeFi space. Why do you think there's such a challenge around protecting these bridges?
Okay, that's a good one. I think probably my co-founder Mehul can have a better perspective on this, but this is my very high level understanding of this, right? Like essentially, okay, like if you look at in terms of layering of risk, right? Like, okay, when you write a smart contract on one chain, I mean, that is one layer of risk, one piece of code where you can miss out on different vulnerabilities and miss out on or leave aside some bugs and issues that can be exploited. When you're building bridges, this is like deploying the same set of smart contracts across multiple chains, right? Like, so somehow I feel that the risk gets compounded up to a lot of level. And the assumptions that you're making through other external parties, I mean, it can be oracles or other things, like all those risks compound up to some extent. So I think that is my, I would say, a higher level understanding from where probably making secure bridges is something more complex than writing a protocol working on one chain, right? So is how at least I look at it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I'm not an engineer, but you know, I
Yeah.
work in the security space, so I'm always interested to hear people's perspective. And
Right.
also, I'd like to get your take on
Mm.
what do you think is the implications of this? You know, a lot of people are saying that right now we're kind of more towards the bottom than
Mm.
you know
Mm.
than the top. Of course, we nowhere to go but up from here. And
Mm.
we, as builders, we're always focused on the fundamentals and the technology aspect. We don't really speculate on the price. But you know, having said that, do you think that this will have like damaging, like, do you think that we have a lot more to go in terms of reaching a bottom, or do you feel like it's not going to have a big impact on the market?
You mean like in terms of the recent hack and its impact on the market perception, right? Um, that's an interesting thing. I think, okay, the way I see it is like the people who had already been in the ecosystem, um, I mean, we might see some short-term price movements, but I don't think like these are things people have already become accustomed to, at least have accepted as part of the risk for the people who are already in the DeFi ecosystem, right? In the sense that, okay, we have already seen Ronin hack, we have already seen Poly network hack that happened last year. And so we have gone through in last 12 months, a lot of massive hacks that has happened, right? About the same scale. Like I think Ronin was 620 million, Poly network was 610 million, right? Something like this. This one, I'm assuming, is relatively of a lower scale, but of a larger ecosystem. I don't think this should have a impact on prices per se or market perception. It will definitely have some impact on people who are on the fringes per se. But anyways, that growth had been a bit slow due to a lot of reasons, right? Like there is a macro condition happening where a lot of liquidity has moved out of DeFi into traditional finance back, or maybe people are just holding it on their wallets because of the rising interest rates in Fed, right? So yeah, I mean, to summarize, I don't think like in a short term we would see any impact in this, but maybe a bit of slowdown in terms of new users, which was anyway had slowed down in recent times. So let's see.
Yeah, to your point, I feel like the people that were on the fence about crypto are already long gone, and the people that are here to stay are the ones that truly believe in the technology and what we're building. I was just at Misari Mainnet, which is a pretty big DeFi conference, and you know, relative to last year, it's a lot less people. I think that there were less institutions represented there.
Okay.
However, the builders, it does not phase them. That what you know, the phase that we're going in right now, they're not phased at all. They're still building, and it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see what happens next.
Yeah, if it's okay, I'm fairly curious to know, like, and I'll reverse the role maybe a bit for a minute. Like, what was your most interesting takeaways from the conference? Because I really wanted to go, but couldn't for some reasons. So, like,
yeah, that's a very good question, Archie. I'll have to say that one big takeaway for me was the development that's happening on Cosmos. I was kind of impressed by that. So I had the chance to connect with a Secret Network, which is a chain within the Cosmos ecosystem. And also within Secret Network, there is a protocol called Shade Protocol. They're building all of these DeFi tools. However, they have a privacy component to it, which, you know, based on the US regulations right now, it's a little bit on the fence in terms of whether or not privacy projects would do well, right? From a regulatory standpoint. But from a use case standpoint, there's a lot of great things that are happening in the space. And the imagination of the builders is on another level. And so it's just a matter of, can the regulation withstand all of that imagination? That's how I look at it. So it will be very interesting to see how the things, how the how the regulations unfold, but there's a lot of really great things that are happening there.
Awesome.
And I also had the opportunity to connect with some of the engineers, me working in the cybersecurity space. And a lot of people are saying that for builders, the Cosmos SDK is very user-friendly, more friendly than, say, the Polkadot SDK. So there's a lot of comparison between the two. So from that, again, me not being an engineer, but from what I gather, it appears that there's a lot of development that is happening within that ecosystem.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Cosmos is one chain that, again, like I've been on the sidelines and reading a lot about them, but I haven't done a deep dive. But definitely, this is something that gives me that last push that, okay, we should probably spend some more time. So
yeah, and if you believe in interoperability, right, then I think it's only a matter of time, right? Because that's exactly what the core structure is designed for. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens, and with interoperability comes a lot of risks, and that's the other challenging part. How can security keep up with all of this amazing innovation that's happening? I mean, I'm sure that's something that you guys are thinking about as well. Like, how can we protect our users while at the same time giving them all of these extremely user-friendly features? And maybe you can shed some light about like what goes through your mind whenever you're, making those types of considerations.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Like, this had been this is a constant friction or debate that goes in, right? Like if you want to make something useful and usable, but at the same time you're trying to make it secure, there's always a constant friction between these two trade-offs. For us, essentially, I would say like there are at two levels, like while we were building Brew Money, that this comes up. Like one is around like, okay, what kind of ecosystems and protocols we should integrate with, right? And there's so many different opportunities, and what we started with, to be very honest, like we over-indexed on the safety and the security aspect. So we picked up protocols and ecosystems that we felt we were comfortable to start with, while there were more exciting opportunities that we would go and explore and experiment with. But to build on, we took a very conservative approach. And the primary reason is like, if you think, the kind of users we're targeting, like these are people who will be getting into DeFi for the first time. A lot of them will be probably using Brew Money to interact with any DeFi ecosystem or protocol for the first time. And somebody who loses funds, like you set them back by a couple of years. Like it's very similar to crypto, right? Every bull run, you will have a lot of people who will jump in, who will start getting into the crypto ecosystem. But if somebody goes into a different kind of token which crashes significantly, a lot of them will pull back. So at the end of the day, when you are taking responsibility, you can be a wallet, but if you are acting as the gateway, you have some responsibility of guiding the users either through transparency or making the right choices within the products. So I think that's the one thing that we did. Like the other aspect that we are still trying to figure is like, okay, while we have made a lot of these workflows simpler, like making that first deposit on Aave, like I'm very confident that the experience we have designed is one tap and the simplest experience in the ecosystem today. But and we did it without sacrificing on the self-custody approach. But still, like the idea that, okay, a user has to go and manage the seed phrase is a complicated bit. So I think these are some trade-offs that we have lived with. We are trying to figure out that, okay, how much further we can push it while maintaining the same level of security. So, yeah.
I would imagine that the other challenge would be just getting the feedback from the users, right? In order to improve your product, you have to continuously understand what's in their minds of your users and what kind of challenges they're experiencing. And I think that, you come from a product background that's probably right in your wheelhouse, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. I think, you have to constantly, but in that way, I think we had been fortunate. So we had a very good early set of users who had been, I would say, very generous both with their time and inputs. I mean, we have had people coming up reporting some really interesting issues that we had not even thought about, like when we were building the product. And some of them seem so obvious in hindsight. So I'll give you an example. So, I mean, we have a very, I would say a very seamless on-ramp and off-ramp experience. Seamless in the sense that, okay, you can move funds from your bank account into crypto assets, into a protocol, all of that in one tap. But you can also bring it back to your bank account, like very seamlessly. And we designed the product in a way where we surface the right set of options at the right time. For instance, like we don't surface the fact that you need to back up your seed phrase if you don't have any funds on the wallet. It doesn't make sense, right? That's not the most important step for the user when you're trying to nudge them through one step at a time. And we thought we took the right design decision. The flip side was that a lot of people came in and they assumed that, okay, this seems like a custodial solution. Why are you calling it self-custody? Because because there is a mindset that, okay, self-custody is coupled with seed phrase. So this gives us a lot of inputs that while you are making it simpler, how do you still communicate it better than what you are and how you're building it? So yeah.
Yeah, and that opens up a whole can of worms in regards to marketing and how to educate your users. It's I imagine that the challenges are just in so many different areas, both from the technical standpoint and marketing standpoint. It's a lot of different areas to consider. Archie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing about Brew Money. Where can people learn more about what you're working on?
Yes. Okay, we have a website, brew.money. You can go and check it out. You can sign up for the waitlist. You can follow us on Twitter at brew_DeFi. We keep on posting a lot of educational material. We have a newsletter called DeFi Fridays, which has over 1,000 subscribers, and where we summarize a lot of things that happens in DeFi every week, and also we try to educate people. So I think these are three places where you can definitely check us out for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Archie. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks, Miguel. This was really fun. Have a great day.
You as well.